Hello everyone, this is Husky here, and this video is going to be Marauders versus Gateway units. Now this isn't to start any flame wars or anything like that about the balance of Marauders, because right now, I mean, it is what it is. If you're a Protoss player, you will have a lot of trouble with Marauders in the early game. I personally think that it is one of the hardest units to stop in the early game, and I'm going to show you exactly why. And again, I'm not talking about balance here, I'm just talking about if you are a Protoss player, you are going to have a lot of trouble with Marauders. I think that that is something that most Protoss players can agree on, because as a Protoss player, it's really tempting to stick with mass gateway units, and I'm going to show you why that is not really a very good idea in this video. Now, this is kind of a situational video that would never happen, but let's go ahead and get it started. Alright, so first off, I have the trusty Stalker. There is going to be 100 Stalkers versus 100 Marauders, because that is going to be the supply cap for both sides. I mean, each of these units does cost 2 supply and a similar cost in minerals and gas. They're pretty close to each other. So I'm not going to micro either side here. I'm just going to let them battle, which of course this is not how it would be if you were in a 1 versus 1. I realize that, just as this is just to show the damage output for Marauders versus every single gateway unit, because if you're a newer player, you do have a really hard time microing the units efficiently. Now, at the higher level of play, sure, they'll be able to micro these units just fine, but for the average Joe, you know, most of the people even watching this video, it's going to be really hard to micro your units just perfectly, which I'm going to do a little bit of micro here, trying to even out these units. So you can see the amount of Stalkers I have is quickly dwindling, and there's even some Marauders in the back that aren't even doing anything. It doesn't even look like I'm going to break this first line of Marauders. So for your Stalker, I'm going to go ahead and pause it really quick after this little clip. But for Stalkers, they are very difficult to use against Marauders, but they are the easiest unit out of your gateway units to use against Marauders, because since they're a range unit, if they do get shot by the Marauder, you can still sometimes get away either with the help of a Zealot, with the force field, or you can just get lucky if they miss-micro the Marauders there a little bit. And this is when they had the slow upgrade, which Marauders will definitely have their slow upgrade. So if you're going to get gateway units against Marauders, getting mostly Stalkers is probably your best choice, but you are going to want some sentries as well, especially to force field that ramp. So now we're going to go ahead and get some Zealots in here. I once again have 100 Zealots, and I'm going to be attacking these Marauders. Now, I do not have Zealot legs, and I also do not have slow on the Marauders. I'm trying to show this video as if it was the very first stages of the game. Don't even have the Marauder slow. Of course, Marauder slow is a lot easier to get than Zealots. So as you can see, the Zealots are melting away pretty quickly. They're making a fair dent in these Marauders, but not nearly enough to kill them. This is definitely going to be a fairly one-sided battle here, which this isn't something that is uncommon if you're a Protoss player. When your Zealots start getting slowed by the Marauders, it is lights out for your Zealots. So definitely don't want to go mass Zealot against Marauder, because imagine if these were getting microed, you probably could kill all those without losing a single Marauder. So definitely do not want to go mass Zealot against Marauder. Getting a couple of Zealots is a good idea. They can absorb some of the damage and allow your Stalkers to get shots in, kind of force that army back a little bit. But again, if you're just going straight up gateway units, you're going to have a very difficult time in dealing with a Marauder heavy army. And now I've loaded up 100 sentries here, the good old cutest unit in the Protoss army, except for the Reaver, but they're not in the Protoss army anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and use Guardian Shield, make sure to get good coverage with the Guardian Shield, because it is one of their abilities that you would be using, although honestly in the early stages of the game, you're probably just going to be force fielding your ramp. That is something that is really crucial. It's really the main thing a Protoss player can do to defend against early Marauder aggression. You got to remember, against a Terran player, you always want to get out your Stalker first, because there is a chance of an early Reaper, and if you don't get that Stalker out soon enough, then the Reaper is just going to annihilate you. If you get a Zealot or even a Sentry, the Reaper is going to absolutely destroy those. So again, the Marauders, a couple of them do die, but not nearly as many as the Sentries. So what does this show for a Protoss player? Now again, I don't want to say that Marauders are OP or anything like that. I'm not here to discuss that. What I want to discuss is just the fact that Marauders are very good against gateway units. So for now, we're going to watch actually the Colossi try and take on the Marauders now, which this isn't going to be part of the discussion because this video is discussing the early stages of the game. So anyways, basically as a Protoss player, when you're going against a Terran player, you really need to get your sentries out, make sure they have enough energy, and constantly force field your ramp. this is something that I've learned the hard way through trial and error in StarCraft 2, is that if you do not force field your ramp against an early Terran push, at least I lose. Like, if they get up my ramp and there's a bunch of Marauders with the slow, all I have is gateway units, I mean, that's it. They can get to your base before you can get either an Immortal out or before you can get a Void Ray out. Now, if you are expecting an early Marauder push from your opponent, you can do one of two things, which both involve force fielding the hell out of your ramp. Now we got some Immortals going on in here. It is 33 Colossi and I believe 50 Immortals because of the supply for those units. And so anyways, it does involve force fielding your ramp, which is very, very crucial, and then either teching towards Immortals or towards Colossi. Teching towards Immortals, getting a fast Immortal out, or going for Void Rays. I personally have a lot of success with Void Rays, and Immortals are good too, though, especially against Mars. Though one thing you have to be careful about, though, is if they go Mass Marine instead of Mass Marauder, then that Mass Marine with their shields and stim pack is especially... it's really good against Immortals and Void Rays. You got to remember, Marines, once you get about 5 or 6 of them, they can take on one Void Ray pretty easily. So if you have 2 Void Rays and they have 10 Marines, I mean, it gets to where it's pretty difficult to manage with that many Marines. So this video is going to end really quick. I just want to finish this super fast little discussion, though. And so as a Protoss player, you really, really have to scout. You have to see if there's going to be an early Marauder, an early Reaper, or if there is just going to be Mass Marine. It's very, very crucial that you see that. Just because you see a tech lab does not mean they're not going Mass Marine. You got to remember that they use that tech lab for stim pack and for shields when they are going Mass Marine, and they also use the tech lab for the Marauder slow, and in a lot rarer cases they will use it for the Reaper speed. But as a Protoss player, you won't have to deal with that very often, and if you do, then you just leave a Stalker in your mineral line and you're pretty much good to go. So this video was just to show this is why if you are losing to Marauders, that's the word. Ooh, I almost said Immortals. It's just like, whoopsies, wrong video. If you're losing to Marauders, it is... This is why, because if you are going gateway units, you are going to get decimated by Marauders. We just watched the Marauders beat Stalkers, Sentries, and Zealots in a straight-up battle. So you're not, even if you mix those units, you're going to have a really, really difficult time dealing with that until you can get things like Zealot Charge, until you can get Blink, or, you know, those kind of spells, then you're going to have trouble in a straight-up battle. So in the very, very early stages of going against Marauders, force field your ramp, number 1. That is absolutely crucial. And try and get early Void Rays or early Colossi. I do plan to get some, what I really want to see is some PvT on Scrap Station. So I'm going to try and find a good video for PvT on Scrap Station, because on that map, the Protoss player, their ramp is way too big to force field. Because if you force field your choke, they're just going to attack your buildings and eventually take down your gateways, which obviously you don't want that to happen. So I am going to look around for good tutorial videos on that map, see if I can get one from a top player. I don't know who, maybe like In Control or the Little One or something like that. And oh, what else? I'm just kind of curious as to what you guys think. Is this video helpful, or is this kind of a waste of time? Should I just show you an in-game view, or can I show these to show you why you don't want to go head-on with Marauders? Because for their cost and for their strength, they counter every gateway unit. And once they get stim pack, they can actually counter Immortals and Colossi, depending on the situation. I mean, if it's a big Marine Marauder ball and your Colossi is in the back with Thermal Lance, it's pretty good. But if your Colossi get a little out of position, a stim pack, boom, they're done. Not a single one of their units is going to be lost. So let me know what you guys think, and also post down below how you guys deal with Marauders. This is a question I get, I would say, a lot of the time. If you guys saw that post I made on Facebook talking about if there was one unit you could nerf, a lot of people say Marauder, and that's why I decided to actually make this video to try and help you guys out a little bit. So leave your tips and tricks, if you guys remember that video. That was a long time ago. Anyways, that is that. It's actually really, really late. Everyone's asleep, so I had to be kind of quiet for this video. And so hopefully everything will be fixed on my computer soon. Just a couple more bugs here and there. So that is that, and of course I will see you guys next time.